We live in a fast-paced and hectic world where it's easy to feel overwhelmed, stressed, and out of control. How do you manage all the competing pressures without losing sense of yourself? How do you stay focused enough to not only plot a path, but follow it? Welcome to Master Your Life, a show that offers inspiration, insight, and intelligence, as well as success stories from many walks of life that can show you how you can control your own destiny. Our knowledgeable and entertaining host and her guests give practical advice that you can use every day in the quest to master your life. Now, here's your host, Leaha Mattinson.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's show. We're so excited to have each and every one of you here, and welcome to today's guest co-host, Greg Bird. Greg, how are you today?
I'm great. I'm happy to be back and really excited. We got Mr. Ryan Williams here today. So, Ryan, welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much for the invite. Certainly love to be here, and greetings all the way from South Africa at the moment.
So much fun. So Ryan, we came across your really great technology. I have been a curator of health technology and health, just things to make you healthy for well over 10 years and much longer than that, but serious about it for over 10 years. And I came across your technology, this genius biofeedback machine. I was so excited and went, I need to meet you and I need to talk with you. So can you just talk about yourself and how you actually came onto this technology or developing this wonderful technology?
Yes, absolutely. I think, one of the sort of driving factors, that you have, that I have is always the sort of innate ability to try to find ways to sort of take charge of your own health. And, that's certainly something that I've been passionate about for many years. I've been really blessed to be involved in this industry. And I say this industry, you could probably term it, sort of quantum biofeedback for well over 15 to sort of 20 years. In fact, most of my adult life has been centered around the quest for developing or finding different ways to sort of analyze the body. I can't say I'm a sort of, I'm a nerd or I'm a tech, probably more a sort of tech junkie. And that certainly has been a sort of inspiration, that I've had. I've always been interested in how technology can help sort of improve your own health and well-being. And going back maybe, 15, 20 years ago, I came across a sort of computerized stress detection system, which for all intents and purposes was, it was one of the original devices where you can connect a client to a computerized system and you can sort of run a electrical impulse, through the body, sort of, so to speak. And by running that impulse, through the body, you look at the resistance in the body, and depending on the body's resistance would help you determine or sort of glean sort of certain health-related information about the body. So that happened probably 15, sort of 20 years ago. And that sort of really, really piqued my interest. Now, I'm going back, 15, 20 years ago when computers were all still very new. And, suddenly you've got this computerized system, which is, analyzing the body. It was really fantastic. It was a great time to be around. And I think, what's been exciting is that over the years, things have evolved, technology has evolved. And, as technology has evolved, things have got better, quicker, cheaper, faster, and obviously, smaller. So exactly 15, 20 years ago, you had a big computerized system, you had harnesses here, you had the whole body attached, and off you went. So that was 15, 20 years ago. Fast forward, now you can do pretty much everything with a mobile app. Just to sort of bear testament to that, probably 30% of my work in terms of communication and emails and correspondence is actually done through your mobile device. If someone told you, 15, 20 years ago, you're going to be walking down the road and, you'll be attached to a phone, you'll think they're absolutely loony. But, nonetheless, that's where we were, this is where we are, and, this is what we've been developing.
Well, I'll tell you what, I grew up on the farm, in the 80s, early 90s, and every day at 5 o'clock during the weekdays, we had the Star Trek show would come on, and I've always loved science fiction. Star Trek was always my favorite show, and I can always remember in just about every single episode, one of the crewmates or the captain or whoever always had their tricorder. Well, heck, looks just like a cell phone is today. And I'm like, fast forward the clock, and I'm just like my grandpa Ray. He was a real early adopter with technology. So I've always been fascinated with technology. So here I was 4 years ago at this technology conference, and they actually had a competition out there. I don't know who actually won, but they were talking about how someone would get it down to an app where you could scan your body, find out what's going on within there, exactly how you described. And I would never have believed it, just like you said, that we would all be walking around with phones one day or connected to a device. Here we've got a technology now today that actually does some of the things that we saw on Star Trek many, many years ago.
Greg, I couldn't agree with you more. And, every now and then I sort of take a step back and as a child, coming from South Africa, obviously everything was maybe 5 or sort of 10 years behind, and, sort of looking back now as a child, and you look at all the so-called, sci-fi things that we used to talk about or see on TV as a child. I mean, we are now, I sort of love it or sort of hate it. We are living in that paradigm. We've got the little Echo Dot at home. You wake up in the morning and you say good morning to it. It talks back to you and it gives you the information for the day and the news report and the weather report. So we really have sort of stepped into this time of, sort of sci-fi.
Yeah, it's a wonderful and a little terrifying place to be. So it's good for us to all learn how to manage our, use of technology as well. But that's one of the things I think that your device actually does, which is interesting. So can you, for the audience who really doesn't understand what biofeedback training is, can you go like really rudimentary? What is biofeedback?
Absolutely. I think, there's a few things to look at, and, this might be a bit of a lengthy conversation. So if I end up talking too much, you can just, you can mute me, you can cut out to a commercial or just put your hand up or, something like that. But I think, the sort of evolution of this technology, it's sort of rooted, first and foremost in ancient history, in a lot of the sort of traditional sciences. And what I mean by the traditional sciences is the ancient healing modalities, the Veda, the TCM, the auras, the chakras, the ancient philosophies about energy being in the body. So I guess to draw a sort of comparison is that, if you look at alternative medicine, because, this is part of the alternative medicine model. And, one of the foundations about alternative medicine is that everything in the universe has its own energetic vibration or its own resonance. And as long as you can understand that, everything from a virus to a herb to a pathogen to a homeopathic remedy to a nutritional supplement, all of those different items have a very unique sort of resonance, a sort of vibration. Everything is vibrating at a sort of molecular state. And energy medicine is really about tapping into that vibration. If you look at, acupuncture, the way acupuncture is so popular, or why acupuncture is so effective, is that you've got your sort of meridians, which are these 12 imaginary lines that sort of run through the body. And then along those lines, you've got these different points. Within those lines, you've got this chi or this energy, which is always running through the body. When people become ill, it's because there's a blockage in that energy, and that blockage typically happens at one of the acupuncture points. So then what happens is they get the needle, they put the needle in that specific point, and that needle is like a sort of conductivity. It's like a sort of conductor. And what that does, it sort of short circuits that area, and it creates that energy. It gets that energy to flow again. So you've got this imaginary chi, or this energy, which is basically going through the body all the time. So that's the foundational belief about, integrative medicine or sort of alternative medicine. If you look at the sort of allopathic medical model, the doctors, the prescriptions, the pharma, it's a completely different philosophy. And the way they see the body comprises of sort of chemicals, 2 parts sodium, 2 parts oxygen, etc. And when they give you the medication, it's a completely different philosophy. I'm certainly not here to dismiss the medical community. we work with a sort of integrative approach, but really the medical community and the alternative medicine community, from a sort of base foundational level, we see things completely different. Allopathic, they see it from the sort of chemical composition. We see it from energy. When you talk about energy, you have voltages, you have amperages, you have, resistance. So at a molecular level within the body, you've got this sort of ionic exchange. In other words, the cells are always talking to one another. And at a very small, tiny scale, there's a voltage exchange. In other words, it's electrical energy, right? So you've got this energy which is, sort of moving through the body. So that's the first part in terms of, the sort of foundation. If we now look at biofeedback, biofeedback was a sort of predecessor to what we now call quantum biofeedback or information-coded biofeedback. So typically the traditional biofeedback, and I'm going back into the 60s and the sort of 70s, is that you would have electrodes that you would attach to the body and you would read the body's response. In other words, with biofeedback, you can measure the heart rate, you can measure the brain activity, and it's like a sort of one-way feedback system. You attach electrodes, you look at the body, and then typically through biofeedback, if you want to focus on, trying to still the mind, you would maybe go into a sort of guided meditation, and in doing that biofeedback, you would ideally be able to sort of, sort of still the mind. So that's biofeedback, still around, very popular modality, fantastic modality. But then comes along this concept of quantum biofeedback or information-coded biofeedback. So really what we did is that we took biofeedback, we put it in a bag, we sort of shook it up, and we said, you know what, there's a great foundation here, but let's really evolve this. And we evolved this by actually stimulating the body with these energetic signatures. So in other words, going back to sort of energy medicine, everything in the body is energy. You've got electrical frequencies. Everything has its own unique energetic vibration. So what we do with quantum biofeedback is we try to send these energetic signatures into the body. By sending an energetic signature into the body's going to have a response. It's going to be provoked. So it's like a kind of provoked response or an evoked response. So I'm going to send something into the body responds, and then depending on how that body responds is going to help me determine what is actually going on with the body. So let me have a drink of water.
I'm going to jump in because I got to say two things on some of the stuff you've already said, Ryan. I'm going to go back to the acupuncture. So I walked this earth 38 years before I actually tried acupuncture, and something drew me to my first acupuncturist, Jean Wong. And it was like he was expecting me, first of all. And when I went in there, again, I thought, you know what, I have nothing else to lose. I checked out all my group benefits of what I could use to really help me at that particular time. And I tell you, I swear by it today that I've always gone back for acupuncture just for a little tune-up, a little tweak. Anytime I got the sniffles, a headache, a sore throat, COVID symptoms, whatever, and it literally works like that. I swear by it. So that was one thing, realigning the energies. Now, the other thing is that since I was so fascinated by this genius biofeedback, is I had to try it myself. And you had said how the body gets an evoked response. So first of all, I had to actually say, well, I got to test this thing out. Like, is this even real? And anyone who knew my grandpa Bird growing up was like, oh, you actually believe in this stuff? And so I had to test it for myself. And just to see if the feedback or the diagnostic was actually anything close to what my body was experiencing or had experienced. And wouldn't you know it, after one attempt, one try of this actual app, it pinpointed some things that nobody would have known. Nobody would have known. And it was just so remarkable that it hit something in, like the nail on the head in a few things. There was like a blockage in my back. There was a pain on the right-hand side of my back between my L4 and L5 vertebrae. And lo and behold, it picked it up on the scan. So in the treatment part of it, I just want to fast forward the little clock to when I actually hit the little button to actually go and send the energy impulse out. What was so remarkable is almost exactly what you said back to how it works like acupuncture, is I almost felt like an acupuncture prick, like a needle. And from there, you can feel kind of the release, and the same sensation I had while I was actually having an acupuncture treatment. So I wanted to share that with you. That's some of the outcome that I experienced.
Yeah, very, very wild. Very wild, but that's how our body is supposed to be aligned. And I love the distinction that you make between allopathic and energetic medicine. As a Qigong practitioner, I can completely, it's like biomechanical is how we approach our body. So it's like if your elbow hurts, then you must treat your elbow, versus that if your elbow hurts, it could be something completely unrelated that you didn't think about it. We were joking about it, saying, well, maybe it's that little bit of loathing that you have hidden underneath the surface. Oh, so not only does this thing read, kind of the, what people would expect, that the biomechanical structure of your body, but there's also these other things that you might not be prepared for getting answers about. That's very revealing, very, very revealing. So back to you and your expertise, Ryan.
Please, and if I get sort of sidetracked, by all means, certainly let me know. But I totally agree with you. And as we are dealing with electrical energy, really we're trying to tap into this sort of body electric. That's really the fundamental premise about energy medicine, on a sort of global scale. If we look at quantum biofeedback, the idea here is that we want to try to stimulate a response from the body. So going back to that sort of foundational belief system, everything in the universe is in its own unique vibrational state. So what we try to do is determine certain vibrational states of herbs, homeopathics, and remedies, and we send these as an impulse into the body. The body is then going to give a response, whether it's a high response or a low response. It's a set of sort of probabilities, and then we as a practitioner will look at that and essentially try to glean information from that. So that's the sort of basic premise about quantum biofeedback. So now I'm going to just sort of jump back a bit, maybe 15, 20 years ago. The original quantum biofeedback systems, they had different harnesses that you would attach around the body and head straps and everything else. A computerized system, in other words, a computerized stress detection system. It tries to analyze the body. So once you hooked up, certain impulses would be sent into the body, like an electrical impulse, and then the body has a response. And that response is decoded or encoded information. And that encoded information, we try to decode and present that in nice sort of graphical charts and sort of images. So that was, 15, 20 years ago. Those systems cost anywhere from $15,000 to sort of $30,000. Those systems are still very popular now. Practitioners use them all the time within their sort of clinical practice. However, 2010, 2011, I was under a guided meditation, and as a kid, I've always had, speech problems. I still sometimes have speech problems. I used to stammer as a child. So speech has been really important to me. I've always been fascinated with it. The manner in which you communicate contains a lot of data. You can tell whether somebody is sick. You can tell whether somebody is happy. You can tell whether somebody is frustrated or whatever it is. The data within the voice has always intrigued me. So during this guided meditation, I literally had a brain download dump. And during this guided meditation, I could visualize how I could take a $15,000 or $20,000 traditional quantum biofeedback product and condense it into a mobile application. Now, this is 10 years ago, right? 10 years ago, mobile applications were great kind of concepts. Some people were downloading apps, typically games, but it was still such a new paradigm. I probably wasn't even using apps at the time, but, lo and behold, I had this idea about how to take a quantum biofeedback product and condense it into a mobile application. It took us 8 months of development, and I kid you not, I literally started off with these A4 pieces of paper, these white pieces of paper with like hand sketches. And that's what I had. And this was going to be in, a mobile application that I just had this deep-seated belief in. And it was so cool, but I hadn't a clue what to do. I did not have a single clue other than these, 7 or 8 pieces of paper, and this is my thing.
Right.
You know, nonetheless, over the 8 months, people came into my life at such an organic time that as I encountered a certain problem, somebody would come into my life and they would help me solve it.
Mhm.
And, you know, when you look at technology, there's to me, what I term, you've got an interface and then you've got a database. So, you know, most computerized systems, the interface is the cool little pictures and the graphs and everything else that you look at. And then you've got the database, which is the thing that crunches the numbers and everything else that's in the sort of background. You know, so that's my understanding about, you know, sort of technology. So nonetheless, over the 8-month period, I began to find designers, engineers, coders, programmers, and we came together and we began to work through these pieces of paper to create a mobile application. Mm-hmm. Now, as I said, you know, like typically when you build a business or you sort of build a product, more often than not, you've got a sort of or you've got somebody that you can reference. You've got an existing product that you can actually work off. Mm-hmm. Nobody had ever built a mobile app like this before at all. So it was up to us to literally forge the way in this industry to create the world's first, you know, quantum biofeedback app. We had no reference points. We had no one that we could work, you know, no one that we could basically look at as a sort of living, working example. So it was really just, you know, going forward, being guided by grace. You know, nonetheless, 8 months later, tears, tribulations, and everything else, and we came out with our first mobile application. I actually did write a blog article about this. After 8 months of software development, I kid you not, I had $20 to my name. Mm-hmm. I was financially spent, emotionally spent, and spent in just about any other way. And we released it on Memorial Day at about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Woke up at about 7 or 8 in the morning, just curious to see how we were doing. And, you know, the sales had sort of started coming in. And it was such a sort of a mini miracle, or a very large miracle for me, how over 8 months where there's no guidance, you're just literally being guided by spirits. And 8 months later, you release a product and people have faith in you and they start supporting, and it sort of evolves over the time. So, you know, essentially for the last 10 years, we've been really focused on developing mobile applications that can analyze the body. We can try to find energetic disturbances in the body. And then once we found those disturbances, what we try to do is to stimulate the body's own sort of innate healing ability. So I guess the last 5-10 minutes, really that is our focus, is to develop mobile applications that actually analyze the voice. Because as I said, you know, speech is actually very important to me. Your voice is a form of, you know, biofeedback. As I'm talking to you, I can see by your responses, you either understand and you're not, I'm angry, you're happy, you're sad, etc. So that is a kind of biofeedback that we are using as part of our sort of analysis capabilities. So we capture the voice, we run the voice through this, what's known as a Fourier algorithm. So we take a real complex voice pattern, we run it through this mathematical algorithm, and then we come up with a real sort of simplified voice wave frequency. This voice wave frequency, we then compare to a database of thousands and thousands of energetic signatures, you know, ranging from herbs to viruses to pathogens to emotions. And then we look at the deviations away from the norm. So we're looking at a set of sort of probabilities. The higher the probability indicates the more the disturbance. And then it's up to you as the user or the practitioner to look at that information and say, well, hang on, you know, why have you reacted high to this item, but you haven't reacted high to that item?
So I just want to say, I want to just jump in here, Ryan. So for yourself, you had said that it helped with your speech because you know you took that really seriously. So I can imagine there's a lot of listeners and viewers right now that, man, if that was an issue, if there was a speech problem or something, again, I will speak from my personal experience of why I relate to that. is I've suffered several concussions over the years, playing ice hockey, horseback riding, where my horse caught me square in the face one day and knocked me silly, quite literally. And then years later, I was in this terrible car accident where I had hit somebody from behind, and my head went forward and smashed my glasses and just caught me square in the head, where it jumbled my brain pretty good. And I tell you, after that moment, my speech, I was missing like every third, fourth word. And that was terrifying for me. I got real severe anxiety from that, because I do a lot of public speaking. And in my day-to-day job, in my career, I always need to be talking with people and communicating. So just hearing that this could be a potential way to alleviate that and work on that, man, that's remarkable to me to hear that.
Yeah, it was, certainly a sort of driving inspiration, because if you look at biofeedback, there's many different types of, biofeedback out there. You've got brainwave activity, you've got your heart rate, you've got your galvanic skin response, which they sort of measure the actual perspiration and the response, within the actual skin. But for me, it was definitely voice, because as a child, I used to suffer tremendous speech problems. So it was, it was sort of rooted in a desire to sort of tap into my childhood and try to find my sort of childhood blockages, so to speak.
Yeah. And in traditional Chinese medicine or Qigong, the voice is used, healing sounds are used to heal very deep, significant illnesses like cancers, all kinds of blockages. So the fun thing that I found, because I did a trial run also of the device, is that it actually is kind of a playful approach as well. And I went, oh, this is fun, because you can't really hide your voice. So it doesn't actually ask you to do anything outrageous, but if you want to sing happy birthday, or you want to sing something to the machine, it'll actually allow you to do that without, going boo, hiss,
Do, re, mi.
That's right. So it's an interactive and fun way of actually getting you to participate. You don't have to actually go for a 5-mile run to get feedback. You just do this nice little singing thing, or say the AEIOU thing, which really almost anybody can do. But then it's honest, which I thought was cool too, because it isn't just a matter of you're giving this thing information and hoping that you can fool it with your positivity or whatever it is, because you're singing and it's still picking up these little subtleties, which is an enormously powerful thing, because we like to tell ourselves that things aren't happening, that, oh, I feel good, oh, I'm okay, rub a little dirt in it and just keep going. But that hasn't served us very well, because we're more sick than ever, we're more stressed than ever, the suicide rates are higher than ever, depression is higher than ever. So even though we've got all this, supposed stuff that's supposed to help us, it's not really worked out that way. So what I thought was genius about the genius, from my perspective, is that you can actually look into the deeper layers of what's going on with me personally. So you can do it with a practitioner, but you can also, take the personal responsibility, or even if you're just shy and you don't want to share your personal health information with a practitioner, you can actually do this trip a little on your own a bit, which is so empowering, I think, for people. So empowering. So congratulations on a wonderful piece of technology. How hard is it to use? Like, we've been playing around, but how hard is it to use?
Great question. And if you don't mind, I actually want to sort of expand on that. First of all, it really has been designed to be a very interactive approach. Your typical session can last anywhere from 20 minutes to sort of 45 minutes. We've spent years and years and a bunch of time and money trying to make this as easy and as friendly to use as possible. To put that into perspective, the majority of our clients are probably females between 45 to 65. So if you take that sort of older demographic, more often than not, this is the first kind of mobile app or sort of mobile experience that they're having. And you know what? They seem to enjoy it. But every week we spend more time and money. We always try to improve the process. We try to make it easier. So as far as I'm concerned, if you can download an app, if you can send a text message or make a call, you should be able to use the app. It's got a really cool sort of graphical interface. Yeah, because obviously, part and parcel of this is to to educate someone and to be able to visualize the imbalances sort of going on in the body. And that was really important to us because, to sort of stimulate the body's own innate healing ability, if somebody can visualize something, if somebody can see what is actually going on their screen, it actually helps stimulate their own sort of innate healing ability. And to me, that's exciting as well. So when you can see there's an imbalance in a certain chakra, or you have a certain, a sort of imbalance going on for the day, you can see it coming up. Just the fact that you're actually seeing it begins to sort of stimulate that sort of innate sort of healing ability. We offer a free 2-week trial as well. We stand behind our product, so people can download it for 2 weeks for free. There's no cost, there's no credit card or anything like that. And really, the reason why we do that is because it's such a cool piece of well, I'm being biased, obviously, but it's such a cool piece of technology. We want everyone to be able to experience this. Whether you've got the money to buy it or not is really immaterial. Try it out for 2 weeks. You sort of see what it's like, and hey, you know what? If it works for you, it works for you. If it doesn't, we wish you well and everything else. But I just want to sort of tap into something you said a bit earlier. What is exciting about this technology is that it is unbiased. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that, it analyzes your sort of body, your body electric, without a sort of precursor or without a sort of underlying goal or an underlying mechanism. As an example, if you're a homeopath or a chiropractor or an acupuncturist or a medical doctor, you've been to medical school or chiropractic school for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. That is how you assess your clients. Mm-hmm. You assess them from a chiropractic perspective or from a medical perspective. And again, I'm certainly not dismissing any of those modalities. But the reality is, in my opinion, you sort of get these blinkers on, where all you do is you see somebody from a sort of chiropractic aspect, or as an acupuncturist, you see them from a sort of acupuncturist perspective. But guess what? The body is complex. Our body is always changing. We have this sort of ionic exchange going on all the time. You may find that today you need acupuncture, but guess what? Tomorrow, maybe you need a sort of chiropractic adjustment. And then the next day, maybe you need a sort of homeopathic remedy. And that is where this technology is great, because it combines all these modalities into one. So it's not as if, you need to be a experienced chiropractor to be able to utilize this technology well. Really, what we love and the people that get the best results are those people that are not tied to any specific modality. In other words, they're your typical health and wellness seeker. Because you know what? As a health and wellness seeker, you are into natural herbs, you're into remedies, you're into acupuncture, you're into homeopathy, you're into auras and chakras, you're into anything and everything because you're a natural wellness seeker. So, you take a bit from here and a sort of bit from there. And the way our technology is designed, it incorporates all these different modalities, into one system. So those people, suddenly they've got this great tool where you've got a bit of acupuncture, you've got a bit of aura balancing, you've got some chakra balancing, you can look at the risk profiles today, have a look at your sort of organ system, and it just sort of brings everything into sort of one system. And what's even more important is that it is unbiased. And I'll share something else with you as well. And again, no disrespect to people that go to like these conferences, but more often than not, people go away for sort of CEUs. And during the weekend or the week-long getaway, they may learn about a certain supplement or a certain herb or a certain allopathic drug or whatever it is. And guess what? They come back to their clinic, and literally every single client for the next week, lo and behold, they actually need that specific herb or supplement. Mm-hmm. And it's not that they are being biased or sort of unbiased. It's just that, you go away for the weekend and you learn about this new herb or product and you automatically become biased because now it's in the top of your mind, and suddenly each client that you assess, you've got, suddenly everybody needs that specific herb that, that you've learned about. It's like human nature. And this kind of independent technology, it's independent, it's unbiased. It's not trying to sell you the latest herb or the latest supplement or the latest modality. It's a piece of technology. It can't do that. What it's doing, it's analyzing your voice. And then from analyzing your voice, it's giving you a series of probabilities. Today, let's look at your acupuncture program. Today, let's look at your at your organs. Today, let's cross-analyze this with this or do this with that. And that is, to me, the real exciting part of this technology, is that you cannot influence the results, whether you do it consciously or sort of subconsciously.
So the results with one of the things I was interested in is that when you invested a little bit, well, you can maybe explain that, but part of it is that it can help you to discern what you should and shouldn't take also, though, right? What's good for your system and not good for your system. So if you were considering taking a supplement or a medication of some kind, that you actually have do you have the ability to test that against your system? So let's say let's use something innocuous like an aspirin, because that's, whatever, maybe a lot of people have that in their cupboard. They can test if that aspirin is good for them or not. Does the technology work to do that?
The short answer is yes. It's a bit more complex than that, but for all intents and purposes, you do have the ability to take any herb, supplement, medication, and actually test it to see how it's going to impact the body. Mm-hmm. Because again, we're sort of dealing with, energy medicine. Everything has its own energetic vibration. So there's a certain process, within the app that you can do. Mm-hmm. And it'll tell you whether this is going to have an impact in this part of the body or in this part of the body. And then it's up to you, as the user, to decide whether, what you're going to do with that information as well.
Well, I'll tell you what, I was the biggest skeptic coming in to try this thing. I just, I have to try this just to see my own expectations. Even though I love technology, I love to test the next best thing out. So when I actually plugged into this thing and it told me some diagnostics that made me go, aha, wow, there's something to this. And then the treatment part. So what I'm going to encourage anyone, if you're remotely interested in trying this, is just you have the free trial. It will blow you away once you actually plug in, do the program, do the diagnostic. I kind of relate it to, how we could take our trucks and cars into the service station, plug it into the big computer, and it'll tell you exactly what's wrong. That's my analogy, is that it pinpointed all these different things, and it was quite remarkable in the results that it spit out. It was pretty cool.
And, maybe just to add to that as well, and just from a sort of legal disclaimer as well, what we're actually doing is we're looking for sort of stresses in the body. We're looking at a set of, probabilities. So we don't, really diagnose. We don't have the right to do that. Our technology certainly doesn't have the ability to do that. But we do look at the stresses in the body. So we stimulate the body with energetic signatures. The body's going to respond. And that response helps us, look at the imbalances in the body. And then, when we actually try to get the body back into balance, what we're trying to do, really is just stimulate the body's own innate healing ability. If you look at, for example, homeopathy, right? Mm-hmm. The more powerful the homeopathic remedy, the more diluted that remedy is. And the reason why that philosophy works, which is actually based on a phrase, which is, more of less and less of more. Mm-hmm. And that is the sort of homeopathic principle. And, as an example, like one of the most common homeopathic remedies is arsenic. But the higher the concentration that arsenic is, the more potent that is. Because, really what that homeopathic remedy is doing, it's getting into the body, and it's not like overriding the body's natural defense system or anything like that. It's sort of trying to tickle the body, or it's trying to remind the body, say, hey, do you remember this? This is like a really bad substance. And you're trying to stimulate that own innate healing ability. Because, we have a lot of innate intelligence within us. And that's really what we are trying to tap into with all this technology, is to tap into that body's own innate healing ability. Our bodies have the ability to heal and regenerate. I mean, you look at our livers, every 6 weeks, we get a brand new liver. Every week or 24 hours or whatever it is, we basically, our eyes regenerate. That's why if you sort of get a scratch on your eye, it's really, really, really painful. It's so painful because it regenerates at such a sort of quicker rate. And, if the body can self-regenerate, then why can't we find a way to stimulate that sort of self-regeneration process?
Yeah. And I've got a million questions around plant medicine. So we're going to have to do another episode, maybe, Ryan, because I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but I see a lot of people trying to do this through plant medicine. And I don't want to use up our episode talking about that today, but I bet you that'd be an interesting topic too, for us to do a discussion about. Do you have success stories that you can share?
Oh gosh, we got tons and tons and tons of success stories. You can look. I mean, I can give you a whole bunch of success stories, but really, you're talking to the developer of a product that is my baby. So you know
Yeah.
what? Honestly, don't take my word for it. Rather, do your own independent research. Google, go on Facebook groups, find our independent practitioners, and rather reach out to them. We've probably got we've got thousands and thousands of users worldwide. We a large part of our business is through a sort of referral process. So to me, what's encouraging is that if people were not getting the results, they certainly would not be referring business to us. So, do we have success stories? Yes, absolutely. It's something which it's sort of so amazing. Like every now and then you feel a bit down and you get an email from a practitioner. Hey, Ryan, guess what happened today? And I read that email and just take a step back. And, I'm a kid from South Africa, and it was always my dream to move to America and, see the big Hollywood sign. And, having done that and having, I live in the US, and just sometimes I look back at my life and then I look at how this technology is touching people's lives all over the world. It is really, really, really humbling. And to sort of add to that as well, people say, is this your product? Are you the developer? I'm really not the developer, and this is not my product. I'll be real clear with you. Maybe this was my idea 10 years ago, but all of our users have taken this product and they have run with it. And it's their feedback, it's their results, it's the way they use that technology. It really belongs to them. And honestly, all the software changes and the developments that we do, it's based upon their feedback. And what's even better is that because it is a mobile device, it's portable, it's sort of easy to use, and because of that, it's so easy for us to make the software changes. So where we are now is where companies that have been around for sort of 30, 40 years, we've been able to catch up with them so much easier because the technology, the terms of the programming and that, it's just so much so much easier to do. But it really is, it's been so encouraging for us to have so many practitioners out there use it. And I'll tell you one thing. We sort of design a program with a certain application or sort of certain function, right? You can do A, B, C, and D. We put it out, we do the training, great, off you go. I kid you not, within a month, oh, no. It's not A, B, C, and D, it's E, F, G, and H. Things that we had no idea where you could correlate or cross-reference or cross-analyze or find hidden meanings or hidden messages about the body. And these practitioners, they end up using this technology and they use it in such an avant-garde method, totally different to how we, originally sort of envisioned it. And that's the encouraging thing, because there's no one way to treat the body. Whether you're a homeopath or an acupuncturist, we're all trying to get to the same point. We're all trying to do the same thing. And there's no right or wrong way. It's just a different way to get there. And this technology, it just brings those different modalities and it helps us to try to do the exact same thing.
Well, I got to say, I was so excited to meet you, Ryan, and I just love that you've been able to share your story, your dream, your vision, how you've really had that come to pass. And, we loved it so much that we wanted to share what you said to us, to the world, and to all our viewers and listeners. So, Leah, if you want to speak to, you've got this on the website, correct?
I do.
link?
Yes.
Yeah,
If anyone wants to come to masteryourlife.ca, you can see the Master Your Life Emporium, where we'll proudly rock this thing for the 14 days that you guys want to check it out. And it's a beautiful interface too. I just want to say that, for the audience, because I think a lot of times the electronic stuff or technology is not that pretty to use and not that easy to use. But I can speak from my experience of having interfaced with this thing for 14 days. It's it's fun. It's like if you're curious at all, like a curious person. And I think most people who are trying to master their life, which is our audience who are listening to this show, and people are interested in taking wellness within their own hands, that's our audience. We're always looking for what's the next best way for me to understand more about myself. And you can find out how to do that by using this wonderful tool. It's so fun to play with. So also keep track of your time, because you might find that it sucks you into the vortex. It's got beautiful music, for you to listen to. Greg pointed out that it sounds like nice, beautiful wind chimes on his. And I was noticing the beautiful sacred geometry patterns that are on the screen if you choose to watch the screen. So it's a very, very nice tool to work with. Yeah. So you can come and get there it is. We're showing it on the screen. So for people who are able
to show now.
Yeah.
It's maybe not the best, but nonetheless, it just might give you a little bird's eye view quick.
Yeah. And if you come onto the website to masteryourlife.ca and go to the Stuff I Love page, you'll find it.
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so cool. So you can see your body, your mind, your energetics.
Color coded.
Yeah. It's a really cool sort of software visual interface. Typically, from a brief little summary, when you run the analysis, you look at the high items and then you look at the low items. You ask yourself the empirical question, why are the items high? Why are the items low? You drag those items into different trays, you push a button, and it plays the balancing tones to help get the body back into balance.
I love the tones for me. It reminded me of being a kid going to visit grandma, and she had the most beautiful wind chimes. And just when I heard it, it just brought me back. And maybe there was something healing to those wind chimes being at Grandma Slavic's house. But I tell you, when that started playing for me, that's exactly what I thought of. And you can almost feel like your positive energy just rise. And that's the only way I could describe that part of the treatment that I had.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what I've noticed, there's been lots of energetic and physical clearing. So for people who, again, it's like that feeling stuck, feeling unclear. And I would say I feel clear most of the time, but what was surprising for me is the unbiased feedback. And I went, oh, wow, there's some things that are underlying, again, it's like the underlying things that you maybe don't notice are keeping you held back in some areas of your life. So when you really are trying to perform or trying to be a better mom or try to be a better human being or trying to be a better grandparent with more energy and more vitality, then you might not even know what is, underlying. And this little thing can just give you some insights. So it's a fun exploratory process. And I say fun because some people will go, oh, it's painful to know what's going on. We all want surprises. They go, hell no, you only want the surprises you really want to have. I'm like, oh yeah, I never thought about it that way. But this is also a time of restoring sanity. In 2021 is the restoration of sanity. So we can start to really tell ourselves the truth about what's going on with our bioenergetic body. And by taking care of that, not only do we take care of our own bioenergetic body, we also help to take care of other people and, the world at large. So it's a very, very cool, very powerful tool, very understated. Ryan, thank you so much.
Technology is here. Let's use it.
Technology is here. Let's use it. Any final words for people as we take out this interview?
No, but it's just really, here we are, take charge of your own health. Don't give your power away. Get technology like this or find ways to take charge of your own health. It's really in your hands. And, we've developed this. We're passionate about it. It's a free trial. It's 14 days. Try it out for 14 days. If it works, if you have some relief, great. If you don't, you know what? It is what it is. But, we love our technology. We've got a whole bunch of different apps that we've developed as well. So we invite you to at least put your foot in the water. Put your little toe in the water and just experience something new. Don't be so dogmatic about your belief system. Just be open to new experiences.
Beautifully put. Thank you, Ryan, so much for being on the show. Greg, thank you again for being my sidekick for this episode. We invite everybody to love yourselves, love each other, mind your mind. That's all for us.
Bye for now.
Thank you for being a part of our program today. Master Your Life is a presentation of Leaha Mattinson Enterprises, Inc. Join us next time on Master Your Life, helping you to discover the very best of you.